back here with you, High Noon Leatherworks, for another leather adventure. And today we're continuing the pirate cuffs. And last episode we did some beveling, we did some burnishing on the edges, and today we're going to go ahead and I'm going to show you how I transfer my artwork that I'm going to put on here for carving. So come on in and let's get started. Alright, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take some tap water here on my sponge, wring it out so it's not dripping, and I'm going to go ahead and case this leather, and you're just getting it moist so that when we get ready to transfer our artwork onto the leather, it will transfer and actually indent, because we're making the top of this leather by casing it soft. So it's going to indent the image into the leather so that we can see it really easy when we get ready to carve it. Let's take my second one, do the same thing. Don't want it soaking wet, just want to coat it with a little bit of water. So basically all I'm doing is getting that top layer moist, and then as I show you how I do my artwork, get prepped for that, this will start drying. You can see the first one's already coming back to its natural color, and that tells you it's ready to go ahead and work with. Now what I've got is I did some generic pirate artwork, and I picked two different sizes when I printed it out on my computer printer, and I want to see which one is going to probably look the best. And I would say probably the bigger one, which that would make it easier to work with. The smaller the detail, the harder it is for carving. But what I'm going to do is I'll take a piece of wax paper, put it over my artwork so I can see through it, take a Sharpie, and I can go ahead and just start tracing that. And it doesn't have to be perfect, because when you transfer it to the leather, it's not going to be perfect either. But once you get your carving done, you'll see that it's going to give it a great 3D effect. And you want all the detail as far as like the eyes being solid, the nose, it's solid. Got a couple little lines there. Now the teeth and the mouth, the way they work, you're going to have a lot of small detail that's going to be hard to transfer from your artwork. So it may be that we draw the mouth on there, we'll see, and then come in and do the small detail of the teeth after we do the carving. So just keep your Sharpie on your artwork best you can, trace it out, and again, the less detail you have, or the bigger your detail is, the better off you are. And that's my opinion and how I've done these in the past. If you go back and you watch my guitar strap videos, that series, you can see how I did the detail in all the waterfall and the fish and the frogs, and check that out. That one's got a lot of detail in it. But anyway, there's my artwork transferred to my wax paper. You can see it better if I put white piece behind it. Then what I do, because I want this to last, is I'll take some clear box tape and I will go over that artwork with that box tape. And you notice I ripped up or cut a little bit of my wax paper out. That's okay. I just need this small area where my artwork's at. So I'm covering that area with box tape, and the reason I do that is if I don't, I might get one shot at transferring this image before I tear up my wax paper. Well, let me trim this down now. Now that I have my box tape on there. Now when I trim that out, this whole entire piece that has my artwork on it is covered in box tape on the top. So what that does is that strengthens that up. It covers up my marker, my Sharpie lines, number one. And number two, it also strengthens my wax paper. So I can use it more than once. I can use it multiple times. So since I have two cuffs to do, I definitely want to use it twice. But if I want to use it again, I throw these in my artwork file. And then if oh yeah, I have a pirate artwork in my file, I can pull that out and do that again, use it over and over. So now I'll place this on the cuff where I want to transfer my image to. And if you want to, you can tape down the corners of your artwork to your table so it doesn't move. And if I do that, I tape it down to my cutting mat. I do not tape down my leather. The reason I don't is trial and error. I've done that before, and I only did it once because what happened was when I took my painter's tape up off of the leather, it left the sticky residue on the leather, and then my die didn't want to take in that spot. So that's why I don't tape down my leather. I just hold it and tape down my artwork so my artwork doesn't move. So this way I don't have to hold both of them. I just hold down one or the other. Now you can use a stylus is what I use. This is a rounded end stylus, and for larger images that's great. This is a pointed stylus, so for more intricate detail that seems to work pretty well. So I'm going to try to use that first, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to follow those lines that I transferred onto that wax paper. And I find it easier if you go away from bottom to top when you're drawing than drawing it towards you. It just seems to me like it works a lot better for me. And you notice I'm holding the bottom of the artwork, so maybe that's why it seems to work easier that way. So I just continue to follow those lines, and I'm not pressing really hard. I'm just following those lines. And again, I'm not going to try to get into the teeth. I'm going to leave that for later when I'm doing the carving. That way I can really get the detail. I don't need those lines to do that. I can wait and do that later. And then when you get into these bigger areas that are solid, you can either outline them and just make some marks on the inside of them so you know they're solid, or you can take your larger stylus and kind of fill those in. But I keep my artwork handy, that way when I'm doing the stamping and carving I know exactly which pieces are supposed to be solid, like the nose and the eyes, and which pieces are supposed to be outlined. So I'm going around the head right now, and with this being taped down, I can lift that up and take a look at it and see if I missed anything. Then I can go back in and put the detail in if I missed anything. Alright, so there is the first one. There's the image transferred from the artwork into the leather cuff. And like I said, some of this stuff gets filled in solid. And we'll see, I may do some painting on these too, so we can do some multicolored dye. We'll see how that works out. Now I can take my second piece. I haven't moved my artwork. It's still taped down to my work surface here, to my cutting mat. And then I can slide my other one up, kind of measure it, and see, so I could try to get them in the exact same spot on both cuffs. And then at that point I hold down on my artwork and I repeat and start tracing my artwork again on the second piece. And you can probably tell by watching the video, I'm not pressing hard on this artwork. I have a pretty pointed stylus that I'm using, so if I press too hard, I'd probably even go through the tape. So I'm kind of being careful about how hard I press, and it doesn't really matter how deep the impression is in the leather. It's just that it's in there so you can see it, because I'm going to use that to actually take my knife, my carving knife, my swivel knife, and do the carving. So I'm just using that as a guide. I'm using the artwork and this tracing onto the leather as a guide so that I can actually do the carving with the swivel knife. So as long as the image is there, that's all I need. I don't need to worry about how deep it is in there or anything. Okay, you can see there got most of it, except I didn't get the eyes and the nose. So I just lay my artwork back down. And then do the eyes and the nose. And then the next thing I want to do is I want to look at the first one I did and make sure that they match. Make sure I didn't miss anything. And that looks good. So there's the second image. And I can put them side by side, and there's both of the images transferred to the leather. Now that image, I can lay these aside and work on these later, because that image is not going to come out of there. Remember, we cased it with water first, which made that surface of that leather really soft. So that is literally indented. That artwork is in there now. So the next step would be to go ahead and take a swivel knife that's beveled. You can see that, if I can get this up here where you can, let me see if I can switch hands here. See how that tip of that blade is beveled? There we go. So that's what, when you start carving this, that's what's going to push those lines that you're carving open. It's going to spread that out. What that does is that gives you room to go in and start using some stamping to turn that into a 3D object. And that's what we're going to do on the next video. So there's how I transfer my artwork onto the leather for carving. So come on back next week and we'll actually be taking our swivel knife and carving out these images and getting them ready for stamping. So like I always say, please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.